everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today I am going to try doing heavy speckling using salt shakers again. The last time I tried this in Dyepot Weekly, I think it was number 327. I used these spice containers that I got from IKEA, which unfortunately the shape of it is a bit awkward, plus the side only really has 3 holes. So I struggled a little bit to get a good rhythm of getting our acid dyes mixed with citric acid powder out. So I have 2 other options here today. One is a glass spice jar. I forget if it's 2 or 3 ounces. It should be able to hold a lot of dye, and it does have holes that are more distributed, plus a lid that screws on so it can be well sealed and stored for future use. And I think I have 6 of these. I also have a few of these tiny little shakers, which are plastic. They have a screw-on cap and then actually another little cap that pops in, but then you can even fill it. So this feels like it should be able to store things pretty well. I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to get this. Okay, you can get that back out. So this doesn't hold that much dye, but is a good container to consider at some point. I will put affiliate links for both of these containers down in the video description in case you want to check either of them out. I think I'm gonna go for this larger jar today because I wanna go for some really heavy speckles of, I'm not sure how many colors. Let's do maybe 3, similar to what I did for night 8 of the 2021 ChemKnits Hanukkah special. But I think that having the speckles in these containers and being able to just shake it out will speed up the process a little bit. And so I'm very curious to see how that may go. Before I introduce our yarn for today, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my lab partner, Rachel Vorman. Rachel, thank you so much for being my lab partner today, and I really hope you are going to be excited with your yarn. Today I will dye 300 grams of Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering weight yarn. This yarn is 80% superwash fine Highland wool, 20% polyamide, and it's got a 2-ply construction. It speckles gorgeously. And now I'm going to go ahead and pre-soak this in just some plain tap water for 20 minutes. And while we're pre-soaking it, I am going to pull some colors. Color-wise, I think that I am going to start with Pink Orchid, Tangelo, and Golden Poppy. I considered using Honey Mustard. I wanted a yellow, but yellow speckles tend to lean orange anyway, and Brilliant Yellow isn't really pigmented enough that you can really see the speckles. So I think that's why I want to do Golden Poppy instead. And then I considered using Blazing Orange instead of Tangelo, but I like that Tangelo is a little bit of a redder orange. And so I think that the 3 of these colors together should give us a really nice glow to our yarn, and I'm really excited. I don't think I've done this combination before. I think that I've swatched these colors all at the same time, but I don't think I actually picked them all together for the final project. I don't think. I put 2 tablespoons of citric acid into each jar, and I probably should have used some kind of funnel because I got citric acid all over the countertop, but I'll wipe that up once I'm done adding powder to it. I use so much citric acid not because I necessarily want to dilute the dyes further, but I want there to be enough volume to allow me to heavily speckle. So I'm going to take a pretty big clump and then a smaller clump of the Pink Orchid dye, and let's see. Okay, this like tongue depressor is working pretty well. And I see pigment, so I think that that was probably a good amount. Whenever I deal with dry dye powder, I always wear a P100, that's a lot, P100 respirator mask, safety glasses, and gloves for personal protection. And none of these tools or equipment or containers are ever used for food. These are all dedicated for dyeing yarn. I don't know, you guys can't really see to the bottom, but this is very very satisfying to mix them up in here. Adding the dye, get a lot. There we go. I'm not sure how I feel about adding the dye directly into the jars like this versus mixing them up and then transferring them. Certainly pouring wasn't super easy, so that's something to keep in mind. And certainly, I mean, I could shake up these little jars. Oh, I don't really want to shake them up because I don't want to like encourage the dyes to go into the air at all, but I'm just going to try to make sure the sides are well mixed, and then we've got a good seal. Actually, I guess I can shake. All right, I guess I'll be shaking it as I dye with it. So there we go, I shook it. But it's sort of like right now, like if you've ever done like layering sand in a jar, so that's pretty cool. You do want to make sure things are reasonably well mixed because not that I'm going to be able to easily tell what color things are. You want things to be reasonably well mixed because you don't want it to all of a sudden dump a ton of pigment at the end. But I'm excited, and we can always add more dye if we think that that is necessary. And if it feels like these holes, there's too many holes and so stuff's coming out too fast, I think I might 3D print something that could fit underneath it that could be a bit slower. But I don't know if that'll be necessary. We'll see how this goes. There's going to be a learning curve to it for sure. But now I'm going to clean the counter. And as for what's left on the sticks, this is just some water. There's not very much pigment in there. So most of the pigment is in the powder. I have my 4-inch deep full-size catering steam pan here, and I am going to add some acid in with the water that we are about to add. The citric acid will increase the amount of acid we have by a lot, but I do want there to be some acid to start. So I am just going to add 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, and we will move it around. But I am going to now add just enough water to cover the yarn. And so I added a bit, and I probably use a little bit more liquid than some other dyers might. I'm across 2 gas burners on my stovetop, but I want to make sure that there's enough liquid that we do not burn the yarn. And that, I would say, is pretty good. There's enough liquid in here that when I press, there's water that squishes, so that means it's well saturated. But most of our yarn is at the surface, which means when we apply the dye, it will connect with yarn before water, so it's more likely to strike quickly. I'm now going to turn on the heat, and when things warm up, we will get masked back up and start speckling. But I added probably 5 to 6 cups of water to this total. I am going to reduce the heat to low because I don't like things to be hot when I am speckling. But I'm also going to move the yarn just a little bit to help distribute the heat through a little bit. Because it's 2 burners, it's not perfect. But now I'm going to go put my mask on so we can start dyeing. Start with the honey mustard. So let's see. There we go. Oh, that's pretty good. We have a reasonable control over here. I think that, oh, this isn't bad. Not bad at all. I think that because maybe there's more holes, it's like a bigger area. Certainly very, very heavy, but we are going for heavy speckles. So before I add more all over, here's our Tangelo, which has like a salmon-y feel to it. I'm going to put some on the other side eventually, but I just wanted to see the colors that I'm working with. Because here's the pink orchid, which I know I used a pink the last time I did salt shakers, but I think it was berry crush. Yeah, so you can see how much pinker the pink orchid is from the Tangelo. And now I'm going to go ahead and add some more of this over here. But this was way easier for getting like heavy speckles. Like, that was super fast. Super, super fast. And I'm really enjoying this colorway. So what I noticed on Hanukkah night 8 was that I was struggling a little bit because my fingers were getting tired from the pinching and applying. And also my back was getting tired. But this was way faster. Now, is the coverage even? No, but that's not what we're going for. Let me zoom you in. We have itty bitty speckles all over. Like, they're heavy though. Yeah, you can really see the pink and the Tangelo much better. The honey mustard does have speckles. It does also seem to spread a tiny bit more, but I'm okay with that. We will be doing more layers of color all over this. But for this first pass, Rachel, I am really happy. I don't want to bring a spoon or anything in yet because I don't want to encourage the dye to spread. We really want it to sort of set right where we put everything. So I think I'm going to wait about 10 minutes before we flip. One perk of using these salt shakers is that it doesn't matter if my gloves are wet or not. I suppose I didn't really check to make sure all the color had absorbed, but we're just going for it and flipping so we can start applying these colors to the other side. I think that my gut says right now that if I'm doing a colorway where I want there to be like really heavy all over speckles and the placement is not very important, then absolutely I should go for shakers. If it is a project where I want to really control the placement and the amount of speckling a little bit more, then I absolutely should go for fingertip speckling. The air is so dry in my house that I'm a little bit nervous about like static and spreading the dye, but I often will like clean the floor and wipe around the pan, and I haven't seen any spread. Another comment I got in another video would be, what if I started shaking from higher up? That would absolutely, like if I started shaking from like up here, that would spread the things out more. But I don't want to do that because I don't want the dye to end up all over my house. And so I think I've gone a lot heavier on this side. There are definitely some areas where it might start to feel a little bit less speckly because I have gone so heavy, but I really, really like it. And so now I guess I'm going to carry on waiting about 10 minutes in between flips. I am not sure if the colors are coming through very well or not. Things feel a little bit blown out, which means a little bit overexposed on the camera monitor, but we'll see how it looks once I edit it. I flipped the yarn, opening it up to look for large patches of white. I didn't mind if we had some pastel colors left behind. We are speckling after all, but I wanted to make sure to interrupt larger bare patches. But oh my gosh, I love the way these three colors are layering together. I think if I wanted to create something that felt a little bit less variegated, a little bit more subtle with all these speckles, I would want to use maybe not 8, but more than 3 colors. There's enough contrast between these 3 colors that you can kind of pick them out each individually and where they're blending, but it does feel a little bit noisier, which isn't bad. It's definitely not a bad thing at all. It's just a reality of this colorway. So maybe I would have picked a few more yellows and soft oranges to have in there, and maybe a couple other pinks if I wanted to continue to add a bit more dimension, subtle dimension. That would bring the subtlety of the yarn up. But I don't mind it being not that subtle. I actually really, really like this colorway. I tried to wait about 10 minutes in between each flip just to give the yarn time to absorb that dye before moving it to avoid too much spread. I think I am satisfied now, and so we've got a lot of acid in here, and I am going to come in and add 8 cups of just regular water. And now I'm going to heat it for 30 minutes. So that way we can completely set the color. And once the 30 minutes are up, I will turn off the heat and let things cool off completely. I could add even more water, but this is enough water for everything to be nice and submerged, and I'm moving it to aid with that. So I will see you shortly. But I mean, I feel like it's hard to see on camera. I feel like the colors aren't doing their thing well. But it is speckly and awesome. Let's wash our yarn. Starting with a little bit of the presoak and adding a little bit of dish soap. What's funny is that I did enough layers that the colors actually blended a fair amount. So maybe using 8 colors really was overkill. But well, the good news is that the water's looking blue, and we've got a lot of yellows and oranges in here. So I am not seeing any bleeding, probably just a reflection from my sharp. So I am going to go ahead and rinse out all of the soap from this yarn, put it through my spin dryer, and then hang it up to dry so we can have some conclusions. But it is so pretty. Here is the finished dry yarn. And Rachel, oh, are these speckles awesome. I think I can zoom in a little further. The speckles are heavy, and I think that this gave the base, there's like I can't tell honestly if it's like a little bit sunny or maybe a little bit pink. Honestly, the pastel color of the base varies based on what other colors were closest to it. It might be a little more pink in areas, a little bit more yellow in others. I think that the colors blended so nicely together. And I'm a little unsure about what I said before. If for it to feel a little more subtle, we would want more colors a little closer distributed. I think that when I did the heavy speckles for Hanukkah, things weren't nearly as heavy because I was doing it with my fingers. So I was applying a lot of speckles, but each individual color was more spread out. And then here, I mean, even at this close-up, you can see where some of the colors are a little bit more patched together. The whole effect, though, is a very glorious sunset, and I am very, very happy. When you zoom out, the overall effect is fairly orange. Like, from far away, I mostly see orange with some gold in there. But then when you look closer, well, right now, actually, I don't see the pink. I was gonna say, when you come closer, you can see the pink. On camera, I'm not seeing it. Maybe if I flip it. Okay, here. From that angle, the first angle, you couldn't see the pink as much. Now you clearly see some of the pinks in there. But there's no question that our orange is dominating the colorway. But again, I mixed like orange, a golden yellow, and a pink. Of course it's gonna feel very orange. But anyway. Rachel Vorman, thank you so much for being my lab partner for this episode of Dyepot Weekly. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you're gonna love the yarn. I am so happy with these shakers that I chose. The size is great for holding even more dye than I set up here today, and I found these so much easier to work with than that other awkwardly shaped jar that I had from IKEA I used in the previous video. And again, if you want to learn more about the tools and equipment I use in my videos, I do have affiliate links down in the video description, and I'll also have a link to the Dyepot Weekly lab partner listings if you would like to learn how you can become a lab partner like Rachel. There's always handy links in the description of all my videos, so it's always worth checking because I cram a lot of stuff in there. But Rachel, thank you again so much for being my lab partner, and again, I really hope you love this yarn. I have a lot of dye left over from this video, and I actually filmed another video with these dyes already, so please make sure you are subscribed to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. That video will come out shortly. Probably not the next video, but pretty soon, and so you don't want to miss it. And even after filming that second video, I still have more of these dyes left. So if you have any suggestions on what I should do with the same 3 colors I used in today's video, please let me know in the comments down below. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching.